Hello and welcome, I'm Ellie Richardson and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of this hour. Iran and the US hold the latest round of talks in Geneva today aimed at resolving their long-standing nuclear dispute and averting new US strikes on Iran following a large-scale military build-up. The two countries renewed negotiations this month, hoping to tackle a decades-long standoff over Tehran's nuclear program. Cuban forces killed 4 people and wounded 6 others aboard a Florida-registered speedboat that entered Cuban waters on Wednesday and opened fire on a Cuban patrol. The Cuban government said at a time of heightened tensions with the United States. The United States has eased an oil embargo on Cuba, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the communist-run island must change dramatically, saying it only had itself to blame for an economic crisis. Former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is set to testify behind closed doors before a congressional committee investigating the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. Former President Bill Clinton is scheduled to answer questions the following day. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has said that he and the US President Donald Trump agreed that the next session of trilateral talks in March on a war settlement should lead to a meeting of the country's leaders. Jimmy Lai, the jailed pro-democracy tycoon, won an appeal overturning his 2022 fraud conviction. The Court of Appeal quashed the conviction, but Lai remains in jail. The death toll from the heavy rains in Brazil's southern eastern state of Minas Gerais has risen to 46. Flooding and landslides displaced around 3,600 people in the cities of Juiz de Fora and Uba, while 21 people remain missing. The US is blocking the Venezuelan government from paying for Nicolas Maduro's legal representation in the drug trafficking case he faces in New York. Maduro and his wife both pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking charges. And for your top stories this hour, Larry Summers, former president of Harvard University, will resign from teaching at the end of this academic year in a decision that is reportedly linked to the review of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. This follows the release of emails by the US House Oversight Committee, which raised question about Summers' relationship with the late financier. The emails reveal a friendship between Summers and Epstein that lasted until 2019 and raises questions about Harvard's ties to Epstein, who donated over $9 million to the university. Meanwhile, a senior Democrat in Congress has accused the Justice Department of withholding FBI interviews with a woman who accused US President Donald Trump of sexual abuse as a minor. Moreover, Representative Robert Garcia has alleged that the DOJ suppressed over 50 pages of material related to the woman's claims, which had been part of the latest release of the Epstein documents. Garcia further claimed that the DOJ's actions heightened concerns of a possible White House cover-up, especially after the department released only the first of 4 interviews with the woman. We are now being joined by Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who is a journalist and is joining us from South Korea. Thank you for joining us here today on NewsX World. In what ways might Summers' resignation and similar resignations in academia and other sectors reshape conversations about accountability for powerful individuals with past connections to criminals?
although against Summers there were no criminal charges, but his action shows that he has taken the accountability into his decision, and he doesn't want to sound like a non-responsible person who has no good hope for the future-oriented, um, healthy elite circles. And that is why, in order to protect the image of the institutions, and in order to protect the institution from the controversies, he has taken this step.
And how do these developments intersect with ongoing congressional scrutiny of Epstein's networks, including hearings involving other political figures, and what implications does that have for public trust in political and academic institutions?
Yeah. Actually, it has raised eyebrows in many elite circles and the academic circles, and not just Harvard University, but there were other universities in the world as well who had been facing this. And because of that, in post-Epstein file era, it is presumed by the analysts that many universities would be very strategic in saving the image of their universities and the academia. And that is why this sort of action is very critical and very important. And its substantial effects are likely in coming days.
And we've just heard that the Democrats are saying that there are still documents released that have Donald Trump included that were missing from this latest drop of Epstein files. What are the legal and ethical implications if it's true that the US Department of Justice has withheld or excluded FBI interview records, including more than 50 pages from the publicly released Epstein files that relate to allegations against President Donald Trump?
See, that would have a kind of legal battle, and many experts and even legal experts are looking into it. They are analyzing right now. So we have to wait some more days in order to conclude anything on this. But of course, there are views that it should not be used either in support or against Trump, and that is where this justice system in the United States comes into. And both the sides, I mean, pro-Trump and anti-Trump, those both forces are trying it not to be politically polarized. And that is the situation right now.
And how does this dispute over missing or withheld documents affect public confidence in federal transparency laws, like the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and the broader credibility of the Justice Department?
See, it raises concerns in terms of public trust, because when you have these missing cases, then it affects the trust of public in the system, and especially in a trust-based system of United States. It is really alarming, because it has been an example of democracy. It has been an example of information sharing, the ecosystem of system that they used to have. So no, it raises comprehensive concerns, and that is why the public trust needs to be upheld. And I'm sure that the civil societies are looking very closely to all these developments.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, but please don't go too far, as we will be joining back with you very shortly. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has stated that the Pyongyang is willing to get along with the United States, but only if Washington officially recognizes North Korea's nuclear status. Speaking after the country concluded its 9th Party Congress, Kim emphasized that if the US respects North Korea's current nuclear status and ends its hostile policies, there is no reason for tensions to persist. This statement, broadcast by state media KCNA, came as North Korea held a military parade to commemorate the Congress. Kim also reaffirmed that North Korea has irreversibly established itself as a nuclear power. The conclusion of the 9th Congress, marked by Kim's remarks, represents a pivotal moment in North Korea's political and military development. These developments come amid growing global concerns over North Korea's nuclear ambitions and its ongoing defiance of international sanctions. Regardless, North Korea remains firm in its stance, signalling that its nuclear capabilities are non-negotiable. Meanwhile, international discussions continue, but tensions between North Korea and the West show no
regime, then the picture becomes very clear that they are trying to engage more and more countries into it, and they want to engage US by through some kind of negotiation tactics, by keeping this denuclearization agenda into downplaying thing, off the table. And this kind of statements are in alignment of this objective.
And how should neighbouring powers such as China, Japan and Russia interpret Kim Jong-un's calls for recognition and its current display of military might at the party Congress parade? And what roles might they play in shaping or responding to these shifts?
See, this show of strength has not been new. It has been in the practice since many years. We should say many decades, like 5-6 decades. They had been doing this. It is nothing new. But if you see the perspective of other and neighboring countries, as you mentioned, Russia. For Russia, it is a very positive approach, because for Russia, it is good to see North Korea flexing their muscles because they are in alignment. They are under agreement also. They have defense agreement. They are doing the things in cooperation, especially when it comes to security and defense. They had been fighting the war together. So for Russia, it is very much a positive approach, and they would always be seeing in future also to flex the muscle even together with North Korea. But from Chinese perspective, for them it is a kind of a neutral approach. They would not be commenting on this, and rather than that, they would be just observing it, because China doesn't want to get into any confrontation when it comes to security dynamics, and they want to have North Korea on their side, if not actively, at least passively. And it is not new that they fought the war together in Korea in 1953. So they have those all legacies. So China and Russia, they are not going to see this kind of muscle flexing in any negative form. But yes, for South Korea, it's a concern. And Japan also, it's a concern. And US, ROK, and Japan trilateral alliance is observing all these things. And definitely, it is not going to affect with that intensity. And this messaging also shows that tone. I mean, they want to engage with the Trump. They want proper attention when Trump will be in China.
And beyond the domestic political controversy, what message does this episode send internationally about how the US handles transparency given the backdrop of the recent North Korea and interactions beyond all the political controversy, including possible high-level talks in the region? What benchmarks should international observers look for to gauge whether North Korea's rhetorical opening towards the US translates into concrete diplomatic progress? What message are they looking for here?
See, on the diplomatic front, there had been some demand from the North side for talks, and that was not to talk on denuclearization and exemption of these sanctions. These two issues were also always on the table. But from the US and ROK side, they had been always telling North Korea to denuclearize themselves, at least, if not complete, at least step by step. That has been the approach of the US ROK alliance towards North Korea. And then, based on that, sanctions could be not lifted, but sanctions also could be a step by step lifted. But that kind of gesture was not shown from the North. They had been very aggressive, and they had been even criticizing openly the US ROK exercises, and even those military exercises had been always creating tensions between the two sides. But uh, if you see the messaging now, the messaging looks softer and it looks little engaging. But um, as an expert, we should like not trust North Korea, because it is always based on the optics, and it is always based on some hidden agenda that they try to that they leverage always. So that is why from US and ROK side, there needs to be a very close analysis and observation. And based on that only, I'm sure that Trump's advisors would be deciding anything, whether to have a Trump-Kim summit or whether to see North Korea as any sort of uh, matter this uh, matter in this visit. So they will be also analyzing it very in a very calibrated manner. So a calibrated approach is needed right now.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, for joining us here today on NewsX World. Thank you. The International Monetary Fund has urged the United States to collaborate with its trading partners to ease trade restrictions. In its latest report, the IMF emphasised the need for mutual efforts to reduce tariffs and other trade barriers, believing that such actions could support global economic recovery. The IMF highlighted the importance of reducing trade tensions, which have been worsened by rising protectionism and ongoing economic challenges in many countries. This call comes amid concerns over the impact of trade curbs on global supply chains and international debt. While the US has maintained strict trade policies in recent years, the IMF believes a cooperative approach with its partners could benefit all sides, fostering a more stable and productive global market. Nonetheless, the IMF remains hopeful that easing trade restrictions could help stabilise the global economy. We are now being joined by Sharad Kohli, who's a senior economist joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. How might the US administration balance domestic political pressures, such as calls from the IMF, and with their advice to ease trade barriers in coordination with partners?
Greetings, Ali, to you and NewsX World viewers. I think it's quite ironical, this kind of statement coming from IMF. We should not forget that IMF, as far as components are concerned, as to who dominates IMF, more than 17% of IMF is still controlled by the United States of America. So it is the biggest partner as far as IMF is concerned, or shall I say it's the biggest dominating partner. And then comes Japan, which is about 6.5%. China is about 6.4%. Germany is about 5.6%. UK and France are 4.2% each. So obviously the statements are coming out of China and Germany and UK to a certain extent. So that is the sanctity of the statement, because when US is the principal dominating partner, I really don't think President Trump is going to heed to that advice. He has not heeded to this advice as far as the local people of US is concerned. He has not listened to the advice of many, advisors within his own country, some of the Republicans in his own country. So I have my doubts if this kind of statement from IMF is going to have any impact on the US, Ellie. I'm sorry, this is just not going to work. It's too mild a statement for somebody like President Trump, who's quite adamant, and he's been threatening tariffs even after the Supreme Court order, which nullified the tariffs levied as reciprocal from 2nd of April. He's completely disregarded that. He's threatened in a State of Union address, which came in, day before night of the US. He said, I'm going to levy more tariffs. I know which countries are playing games and so on. So his threats keep coming. So IMF's simple statement that, this looks like a very, very docile kind of statement that, okay, see that there are no tariffs, the supply chains don't get impacted. I really, really don't think, Ellie, this is going to have any impact on the US, particularly when 17.4% of IMF as the largest partner is US itself.
And what role should coordinated international action play in addressing unfair trade practices and industrial policy distortions? And what challenges might arise in reaching consensus among major economies?
Well, as far as the US is concerned, Ellie, I really don't think the US is at this point of time believing in multilateralism, not even bilateralism for that matter, because all the trade deals done ever since 2nd of April 2024, they stand nullified because of the Supreme Court order. This has frustrated and irritated President Trump, and this is definitely not very good as per his political standing is concerned. His approval rating has fallen down, and as far the other countries are concerned, there is utter confusion because he's used Section 122 of the U.S. Trade Act 1974 to levy 15% tariff, and which ultimately turned out to be 10% when the notification came last night. So I think there is utter confusion because what the nations at this point of time are not able to decipher is whether the deals hold good because they stand nullified legally, or whether the Section 122 tariff holds good. So I think because they have been levied from immediate effect and he's threatened with more tariffs, I don't think President Trump is going to settle for anything less than what he had agreed with various countries. So at this point of time, Ellie, there is utter confusion around the world. I think the days to come will clarify when President Trump settles down on his frustration because of the US Supreme Court order as to how he takes the order. At this point of time, he's calling the judges by all sorts of adjectives, which sounds quite unparliamentary to me because they are part of the judiciary and they should be respected. But nevertheless, that's how President Trump gives the statements. So for now, I think there is confusion. Only in the next few weeks, things will be clear. But for sure, inflation is going to shoot up in America because tariffs are not going to go anywhere. And the US GDP numbers, Ellie, have come to be very pathetic. Just 1.4% growth in the October-December quarter of 2025, the last recorded GDP, which is down from 4.4% in the preceding quarter. So I think the US economy is already reeling under pressures of tariffs and inflation and other problems. So at this point of time, $39 trillion of debt, 130% debt to GDP ratio of US. So I think the economy is not in a very good shape, although in the State of Union address in the Congress the other day, he said economy is doing very well. We are doing better than any other times. Our inflation is low. Our stock markets are booming and so on and so forth. But I suppose that's a political statement because you've got midterm elections coming in the US in November 2026. So obviously, his statements have to be sounding or smelling of politics to be politically correct when he's speaking something. But the realities on the ground is that there are no jobs in the US at this point of time in comparison with the people who are looking for jobs. No new investments are coming on its own. Obviously, forced investments are coming, which are being done in the garb of deals. So all in all, I think at this point of time, the world supply chains, the world, or shall I say multilateral trade at this point of time is in a bit of a disarray as far as the US is concerned, Ellie.
Thank you, Sharad Kohli, for speaking with us today on NewsX World. Thank you. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet said that Phnom Penh wants de-escalation and peaceful resolution to its border conflict with Thailand after Bangkok this week accused its neighbour of violating a December truce. Manit has added that Cambodia is not escalating as it wants de-escalation and wants peaceful coexistence. Let's listen to what Manit had to say.
We're not escalating, we want de-escalation, we want peaceful coexistence, we want relationship to be restored. Cambodia and Thailand, we have 75 years of relationship last year. We just celebrated. And for Cambodia, we just want to have the relationship to go in a mutual, a peace with respect and mutual respects and understanding for each other. Border peace, we believe it is a addition to the existing multilateral organization that could help to promote peace and stability around the world. With many wars broke out everywhere, I think the more the better, with the same goal of organizations.
Paramount has sweetened its offer to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery, proposing $31 per share in a hostile bid. This move challenges Warner's deal with Netflix, where Netflix would acquire Warner's movies and TV business, including hits like Game of Thrones and The Sopranos. In a statement, Warner Brothers Discovery acknowledged that Paramount's offer could lead to a company's superior proposal, suggesting a possible change in direction. The Netflix deal has faced scrutiny from lawmakers, and President Trump has criticised Warner board member Susan Rice. Paramount's bid would also include $7 billion termination fee if Warner cancels its Netflix deal. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.